Well, the virus has now killed more than 100 people in China, and new cases have been confirmed around the world.
So you don't want to frighten the American public.
France and South Korea have also got evacuation plans.
But you need to prepare for and assume
strongly warning Americans to avoid all non-essential travel to China.
That this is going to be a real serious problem.
France, Australia, Canada, the US, Singapore, Cambodia, Vietnam, the list goes on.
Health officials are investigating more than 100 possible cases in the US.
Germany, a man has contracted the virus.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
Japan, where a bus driver contracted the virus.
Coronavirus has killed more than 100 people there and infected more than 4,500.
We have to prepare for the worst, always, because if you don't and the worst happens.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Horrid, chaotic, unpolished, crackhead, puzzling, un-American, unhinged, but a confidence, classic Trump, forceful, unhinged, bully, arrogant, and typical.
Trump was predictable in his behavior as a bully, being cruel, taking a meat cleaver to one of our most cherished traditions.
Someone who has those character traits of empathy and compassion versus someone who was just trying to be a bully and trying to just run ramshot throughout the debate.
Regarding that moment, there's something about using the tactic of bullying in a debate.
If anyone wanted to know what 4 more years of Donald Trump was going to be like, they saw it. They saw the bullying.
Clearly, this debate was an embarrassment for the United States of America.
I mean, just shameless and obesely immoral.
The question is, Rick, whether he over-torqued it and went overboard. I would say way overboard, and I don't think that he is going to profit from this.
I'm just going to say it like it is.
Good morning. It's Wednesday morning. Nancy Pelosi. Oh, my goodness. You heard the morning meltdown there from the news anchors and everything you saw last night. Welcome to the War Room. It's Wednesday, September the 30th, the year of our Lord 2020, broadcasting live from Washington, D.C., on Real America's Voice, on the John Fredericks Radio Network, on G News and GTV, subtitled in Mandarin, blown through the CCP's firewall, and later on in the day on Newsmax TV. Jack Maxey and Raheem Kassam here in the War Room. We're connecting currently with our dear leader, Stephen K. Bannon, up in New York. It's a packed-out show today. I want to make sure we get through everything here. But first, Jack Maxey, first impressions. Who won? Who lost?
Well, I think Chris Wallace may have come in first place, but it's not clear who won second place. Chris Wallace seemed to be. I thought there was a great comment there where Trump said, "Hey, Wallace, you should be the guy standing behind the other podium," because he clearly was trying to take care of Biden, it seemed to me a little bit. There were a couple times where Joe got a little confused, and it seemed to me that Wallace kind of rescued him. And then there was one point where Joe Biden starts laughing sarcastically at Donald Trump, and you're watching on camera, and Wallace joins in the cackle.
Yeah.
It did not seem at all that he was an objective observer. So
I did notice that actually Wallace laughed at Biden at one point as well in favor of Trump. So I'm not sure that there was particularly anything nefarious there, but it's very clear. And I said it yesterday on the National Pulse show yesterday afternoon. I said Wallace is going to play to the Washington set. He has to. He needs those Christmas party invites, right? Like, no, it's true. You can't walk around with your head held high if you're Chris Wallace in Washington, D.C., knowing that you took the fight equally to those two men last night. It just doesn't work like that. So I don't think that we should spend much time whining about the fact that Wallace was on Biden's side. I think we knew that was going to happen. It's built into the equation. The thing I want to analyze with you, Jack, is Trump's performance. Because as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I was sitting there watching it in the Real America's Voice office last night. Around the boardroom table, we had pizzas, I had whiskey. I don't know what everyone else had. I think they had coffee. But we're watching it, and I was just pumping the air. For the first kind of 30 to 40 minutes, the president was good-spirited, but also putting Biden in his place, right? It was this kind of lean forward, very jovial and jocular, but also making sure that you knew who was the president of the United States on that stage. Towards the end, and maybe it was Wallace's interventions, maybe it was something else, but toward the end, the president lost the good-spirited part of that and started to just look like he was just punching at him and punching at him. And I think that's where a lot of people went, if you had just dialed it back a little bit at the end. And what did I say? Remember I said the optimism thing the other day in the studio. I said, it's got to end on an optimistic note. And Trump actually ended on a like, oh, well, I don't know about the results of this election. That's fair in the middle of a debate. That's fair at the beginning of the debate. We all know that these results are going to be skewed based on the mail-in ballots, the absentee ballots, and all of that. We know it. But you don't end a debate on that. You don't send people to bed with fear in their hearts. You send them to bed with something to think, oh, I actually really want to vote for that guy because he said something that uplifts me and that gives me comfort. People need comfort. They're not all like us, right? Everyone isn't like us. They need something. They need a little helping hand.
I think that's one of Trump's biggest strengths. I've said he's had a bully pulpit throughout this whole pandemic. People hammer him. But I think one of his strengths is being an optimistic leader, cheerleader for America and for our American experience. But I got to say, I do think, and some people said it, he seemed like he was a little bit angrier than necessary. But I give the guy some props on this because look at what he's gone through. Look at what we heard about yesterday from the DNI. And yet the media is not talking about that. They're not having any questions about these things in the debate. I do think there were some big tells, though. For example, Joe Biden said he does not support the new Green Deal. This is just a patent lie. He supports the new Green Deal in all of his campaign literature. So I would suspect that the Bernie supporters, AOC, that crew, they might want to sit down with their candidate and find out if he's still part of the team or if he's gone off the reservation in the last couple weeks before the election. Because if that's the case, you guys have been royally used again. Bernie just got thrown to the wolves, and maybe Bernie lacks a little backbone too, because they've done it to you twice now, Bernie, and you haven't even stood up for your army of people who've been out there getting out the vote for these other candidates.
So what is that? What is the idea? Because Trump does seem to have this idea. He was driving the wedge between the radical left and Joe Biden, and he's done it again on Twitter this morning twice. 2 tweets from the president this morning doing the same thing. And I can't figure out, because my concern, and we talked about this before the show, Jack, my concern is that, you're supposed to be allying Joe Biden to the far left. The cities are burning. There's critical theory going on everywhere. All these horrible things that ordinary Americans on the left, on the right, in the center, apolitical, think, this is nonsense. I don't want my kids learning this or growing up to be like this. He's now driving a wedge between that and Joe Biden. Now, I'm not sure what's going on there.
Well, we talked about this earlier before the show where you and I were just sitting here drinking coffee, and this idea that, hey, maybe
you think this is coffee?
You're going to run some of the moderates back to Biden if we try to make it seem as if he's not as radical as he really is. But the reality is Biden is not in charge. Everybody knows this. Because if they chose the leader of the people who are out on the ground in the Democratic Party, it would be somebody like Bernie Sanders. And you look at Tulsi Gabbard, right? I have a lot of respect for Tulsi Gabbard. Here she is. She's a veteran. She's a mom. She's a squared-away person. And look what the Democratic Party did to her. They destroyed her. They went out of their way to make sure that she did not have a voice, and they've done the same thing now twice with Bernie Sanders. So I think the president has a point. The other thing that I think was a big tell was when they asked Joe Biden to define what he thought Antifa was. And Trump says, these are thugs, an organized group. And Biden comes out and says, it's a theory. It's an idea. It's an idea. It's not an organized movement. This just seems irrational to even people on the left, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think the evidence is in the president's favor when it comes to taking the fight, especially as it relates to organizations like Antifa. Now, ideas, if Antifa is an idea, I mean, I've never seen an idea burn a building down. You know, I've never seen an idea. It's people, it's organization, it's human beings that do this. And I wonder if we're going to get a fact check from anybody in the establishment media. Are we going to get a fact check from Fox News? Are we going to get an ex post facto fact check from Chris Wallace at some point on this? Because that is something that I think left unaddressed is particularly dangerous.
Well, the weak link in this is Christopher Wray coming out with that nonsense comment last week about Antifa. And quite frankly, I think as we look around and what's been going on and what was revealed yesterday about Brennan and Hillary Clinton and the attempt to take down this president, I think that every American has to begin to question at some point, who does the FBI work for? Is this an institution that exists just to protect itself? It certainly would seem so when you see the redactions that come from the FBI and then another email that say comes from DHS. The FBI email is completely redacted. The DHS is not. What is it that this FBI, this Federal Bureau of Investigation, is hiding? I tell you the truth, I think that this is key. I think the president has to put Wray in the hot seat, tell him what exactly he is doing about Antifa, what he is doing about the money that is financing this organization. Wray is the guy who is the key that is going to pick the lock and end this nonsense. Because Wray can either come out and tell the truth or Wray can continue to try and protect his broken organization. And at that point, show him the door.
Okay, I want to get everyone's reactions to this in the live chat, in the live stream, because I can see a lot of you guys are very, very animated this morning, and you have your comments, your questions, and I want to make sure that we reflect them all here this morning on the show. The first one comes from Jay Lee asking, where's Steve? Well, Steve is in New York, and we are trying to connect with him via telephone right now due to some technical difficulties, but in about a minute or so we'll be able to connect with Stephen K. Bannon. In fact, it may be good timing. Steve, do we have you?
Guys, there's a
technical
problem between New York and D.C. and Denver. But look, my take on this thing is very different, and why don't we wait and just do it in the next segment?
Yeah, fine. All right, we've got about 2 minutes left to go here. I want to go through some of these live chat remarks that are in the YouTube live at the moment. I think there's a lot of people who are saying, I think, very similar to what I feel, very similar to what Nigel Farage said yesterday, very similar to the reflections that I think Jack Maxey was just making. That is that Trump won. I think, but it wasn't. It was he was winning by a mile, and then, you know, just kind of towards the end he seemed a little bit, and I'm going to use one of the words from the live chat, thuggish, and I think that's a reasonable and legitimate reading there. The point, however, that some people are missing is Biden tried to be equally thuggish last night on that stage. The difference is he couldn't pull it off. He hasn't got that kind of presence within him, and I think that's what was causing a lot of the disruption that you saw between the two, and it was causing Chris Wallace to join in on Biden's side. I think at some point, you know, the sympathy instinct kicks in with somebody like Wallace, and its instinct is to protect somebody like Joe Biden up on that stage. It's not right, but again, as I said at the beginning of this show, we always knew that was going to happen. So there's no whining here in the war room. We'll get into it with Stephen K. Bannon in just a moment. He'll be joining us on the telephone. Some Skype issues on our side at the moment, so we'll be bringing you our interviews via phone today. I want to make sure that you guys are tuned in across the board on Real America's Voice, on the Bannon War Room, on Twitter, on Facebook. You can make sure that you download the podcast, subscribe to the podcast. Not a lot of people know this, but the way the podcast rankings work is it's not based on how many listens you get. It's based on how many subscribers you get. And it's all free. So go away and look for hashtag War Room Pandemic or War Room Pandemic or Bannon's War Room across the board. Make sure you're subscribed. It helps us reach more people. And with the messages we'll be bringing you over the next couple of weeks, that is imperative. That's your job, ladies and gentlemen, for the day. And in the break, we'll be back in just a moment. Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon, Raheem Kassam, And special guests over the course of the program today, including Citizen Free Press Kane. We'll be right back.
Uh-oh, there you go. Slow slicing fruits, veggies, and those stingy onions that bring you to tears. But not anymore. Introducing NutriChopper, the compact handheld speed slicer that cuts up to 10 times quicker than a knife. Watch. You can have one slice or 10 perfect slices at once. Amazing! You can just julienne, or you can bundle slice julienne sticks at lightning speed. With NutriChopper, you can slice the entire onion or mince a mound of onions and never have time for tears. Why slice a single apple wedge when you can wedge it all in one snap? NutriChopper comes with the razor-sharp interchangeable stainless steel blades you need to make all of the cuts you want, and all incredibly quick. Chop thick slices, chop thin slices, chop cubes, chop sticks, and wedge whole fruits and vegetables in just 1 second. Slice it and cook it right in the pan, right on your stove. Chop and slice right into the pot for a family-sized stew with no mess. Snap and slice a fruit salad for the kids right into the bowl in seconds. Slice up a healthy salad for a quick and easy meal on the go. Cube meats and cheeses quick, in a snap. And NutriChopper comes with a perfect portion container and fresh-keeping lid so you can slice it, seal it, and store it all in one. To clean, simply rinse or rack it in the dishwasher. Then lock it to store it safely in a drawer. And now the NutriChopper with the thin slice, thick slice, wedge, and cube blades, and the slice and store container and lid, a value of over $40, is yours for just $19.99. But wait! Order now and we'll even pay the shipping for you. You get the complete NutriChopper set with blades and container with lids, all for just $19.99 with free shipping. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-927-4071 or go online at NutriChopper.com. That's 1-800-927-4071 or go to NutriChopper.com. Order now.
I sent your new prescription to the pharmacy. Any idea how much it will cost? You have a choice. Insurance or GoodRx? I have insurance. Insurance is not what it used to be. People struggle to get their prescriptions covered, and prices keep rising. I recommend GoodRx. You get free coupons to save on your prescriptions. Compare prices to find the best discounts.
GoodRx. Smart.
Stop paying too much for your prescriptions. Download the free app today. My son needs this drug. I hope it doesn't cost too much. I hope my insurance pays for it. Can you tell me how much this will be?
67.
Sorry.
Wait, have you heard about GoodRx? GoodRx finds free coupons to help you save up to 80% on your prescriptions.
Wow. I had no idea.
GoodRx. Stop paying too much for your prescriptions.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
All right. You're back in the War Room. Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam, Stephen K. Bannon joining us from New York, New York. We have Steve. Steve, over to you.
Hey, Raheem, how you doing? I want to really thank the guys in Denver, the team in Colorado, Real America's Voice, for pulling this together. I understand we got technical problems, so that's what happens when you're shooting all over the country. I was actually here last night doing something for Showtime's The Circus. I think it'll be up on Sunday. You'll get to see it. Look, I've got a very different take on this. I think the tell, and I was with a bunch of Democrats last night and people that were connected with Democrats, they were texting the entire time, completely freaked out about Joe Biden's senility, right? So here's the tell. As soon as the broadcast is over, the first thing Joe Scarborough and Wolf Blitzer and CNN say is, we shouldn't be any more debates. We don't need to hear more from Trump. Listen, if they thought Joe Biden represented it, if they thought Joe Biden did a good job, they would say we should have a debate every afternoon, okay? They absolutely, last night in living color, Joe Biden's inability, his senility, I think stood out. Number one, they started with, really, let's go through and deconstruct the debate itself. They started with the strengths of Biden, which were health care, right, and COVID-19. That's supposed to be where the president polls the worst and Biden polls the best. And, you know, Joe Biden, as you said yesterday, Raheem, is going to try to jam Trump up and try to dominate him with policy. President Trump, I thought, and look, I think healthcare is President Trump's probably one of his weakest elements. On healthcare, I thought he chopped him up, right? He came in with details. He came in with facts. He came in with everything that was detailed. And Biden didn't really make a compelling case. Then they go to COVID-19. And I thought President Trump laid out a very thoughtful and reflective alternative. We just can't stay locked down. He talked about second and third order issues regarding lockdowns and how we have to manage the pandemic, but we have to do it in a way that you can open the economy. Biden didn't even refer back to his strategic plan. He goes, you don't have a plan, man. You don't have a plan. Everything of Biden's was just this kind of ephemeral happy talk. You know, these typical tropes written by political consultants that have been, Frank Luntz tested by focus groups. They kind of sit there and go, it's about your family and all that. That's not, the country's in a crisis. And I thought where President Trump nailed him on very specific things and asked him, hey, name me one law and order, society or union or federation or whatever, police officers, first responders, anything that's endorsed you. And he kept saying it a couple of times, no answer. He said, hey, can you actually say the words law and order? Nothing. But, Biden kind of pivoted away. Twice, he's really debating Chris Wallace, as you guys have brought out, but twice on two very important things, Chris Wallace had to interject himself into Biden to reel Biden back because Biden's kind of wandering off the stage like some senile old man. The first was about his COVID response, and they're talking about specifically mandatory wearing of masks. Biden is kind of drifting out into the ether when Biden says, sir, Mr. Vice President, I did ask you about masks, right? Kind of bringing back in. The other time was about his $4 trillion tax increase, of which he just babbles. And then later, babbled about the Green New Deal. And those, one time he's with it, the other time it's the Biden plan. It's $2 trillion versus $63 trillion. Look, Joe Biden is not in shape to be president of the United States, and the left knows that. This whole thing that it was a dumpster fire and everything like that is because Chris Wallace stepped in first as the cut man, right? And then actually had to, when Biden got the standing 8 count, Chris Wallace actually had to get in there and debate. So, and I know, I agree with you, Raheem. We should. I hope we knew it was coming. I hope the debate team was prepped for that. President Trump, I think some of the interjection when Biden was trying to speak might be deemed a little over the top. But listen, these people that keep saying, oh, he's got to be nice, he's got to be pleasant, he's got to be a nicer guy because you need the suburban vote. I just don't see where he's getting the suburban vote. I just don't see the suburban vote being open. Those are even open to him, I don't think are there. I think most people have made up their minds. Most people either think Trump's obnoxious and they don't like him and they don't want him around, right? Or they like the policies of President Trump, and even people think he's got rough edges and is not a traditional president, understands we're in a crisis, and they see today, like on the economy, where we're going to have the third quarter with the greatest growth ever on a percentage basis after having a 30% drop in the second quarter. That 30% drop is essentially Joe Biden's plan going forward. I'd like Joe Biden to defend that. So I thought that President Trump was aggressive. I thought President Trump was tough. I thought President Trump was relentless. And I don't think Joe Biden represented. And the big tell was Joe Scarborough and Wolf Blitzer both come out. Not the Biden campaign. These are two commentators. Remember, the whole time for the hour and a half, they're texting each other. All these media guys are texting the Democratic operatives, their buddies, the other news guys, and they're going, oh, my God, Biden can't stand up here. He can't put two sentences together in a coherent manner. So I'd love to have hashtag war and pandemic. And look, I'm not an apologist for President Trump at any means. I didn't go back into the campaign. As I said, the campaign's got this. The campaign's doing a good job. We're doing these outside groups, particularly doing this war to the knife that's going to be as they try to steal it. You saw last night all the hand-wringing and pearl collection. So Jack, Maxie, Raheem, Gassam, I'd love to hear your comments, observations on my take. I definitely want to hear the deplorables. I want to hear the live chat. I want to hear from hashtag war and pandemic. We know that the media is listening to this. And, hey, guess what? I don't think Trump's going to back off 1 second. Now, I do say that I think he did, and I agree with Brian Kilmeade. I think he had a layup on the white nationalist thing, and he should have knocked it out of the park. I thought that was an easy one. I don't know if he didn't totally hear the question or whatever, but to me that was simple to condemn that. But Biden, this whole thing that is an ideology, I agree with Nigel, an ideology and not a group is nonsense. Raheem Kassam, Nigel Farage have been following this in Europe for years. This thing is a well-organized, well-financed, well-trained anarchist and Marxist organization. It's not an idea, right? It's an actual thing, right? So Raheem, Jack, observations, comments, and then I want to make sure we get feedback from the audience. I understand we got Kane from the great site Citizens Free Press going to come on later and join us, but I want to hear as many thoughts as possible.
Steve, to your point about the idea of the people you watching the debate with kind of seeing that Biden didn't really look up to the job, that he looked sort of in a weakened state, there have been a number of people commenting that on the optics, this debate was very similar to the debate between John F. Kennedy and Richard Nixon, where Richard Nixon was coming off of being ill and hadn't shaved, and he looked as if he just wasn't up to the job. Now, this is obviously a little bit more egregious in terms of the differences between the two candidates and their vigor. I mean, to me, last night, Trump looked like a mastiff on a chain, which we've come to expect from him, whereas Biden looked like a whippet, shivering, waiting for his sweater in comparison.
No, this is why I think the Trump campaign ought to double, triple down. I think they ought to double and triple down on this. Joe Biden cannot represent. Last night, we're not going to have another moderator who tries to do what Chris Wallace does, which is basically be a debate partner. And the debate, if you think about it, the debate was really between Wallace and Trump. Biden was just kind of off to the side, right, in his corner. His cut man gave him a little grease, and then he sat there. Right. So I think that if I was the Trump campaign, I would double and triple down on Biden is not up to the job. It's obviously not up to the job. The Democrats know that. People in media know that. The sophisticated in the know crowd know he's not up to the job. And last night they were petrified. They were absolutely petrified. Raheem, thoughts, observations?
Look, I think you're right. I mean, I think the takes are really quite nuanced as well here, coming out of live streams. People aren't necessarily just saying one thing or the other. It's taking apart and looking at those moments like you have this morning here, Steve, and not saying that, the problem was that Trump was too aggressive, but just that there were moments in which that it could have been dialed back and it could have been handled in a little bit more nuanced way. And that's a debate. That's what happens. For anybody who hasn't stood up on a debate stage and stood behind a podium or a lectern and had to debate like that, you always look back. There are always moments you look back and think, it's like having an argument with your spouse, right? You'd always look back and think, oh, I should have said this thing. I should have brought this thing up. But that's the way it goes. And so in these moments quickly that are passing, very fleeting moments up on that stage, there are always going to be moments you look back on and go, oh, I wish I had handled that slightly differently. There's no such thing as a perfect debate, and there's no such thing as a perfect winner in a debate. Steve, in the live chat, we've got a lot of comments coming in right now. Steve, a lot of comments coming in about how much weight you've lost. So I figured you might enjoy that. I mean, a lot of them. So congratulations, I guess. What did you jog to New York last night?
Every day's a struggle. Trust me. No, and I thank people for that. It is a struggle. Listen, clearly there were missed moments. There wasn't enough populism. There wasn't enough economic nationalism. There wasn't enough China and CCP. There's all types of missed opportunities. I missed hearing about the wall. I missed hearing about immigration, right? I think some of that has to do with some of the people prepping him for debate, right? I think Chris Christie, and I'll just be honest, is a disaster. He's not MAGA. He doesn't know what he's doing. He's a terrible debate guy. In the first one, he had virtually nothing to do in 2016 except play his natural self. We hadn't played the obnoxious Hillary Clinton, right? But him giving guidance, right? And last night saying you need more light than heat. Chris Christie is a small-time 8% approval rating governor of New Jersey, a total disaster as a politician, lowest rated governor ever to end his term there. And he's one of the guys giving advice to the president, just a disaster. Okay, we're going to take a short commercial break. Hopefully we'll get Kane on here from Citizens Free Press, if not the next one after. We got so much to go through on this. We got a lot of wood to chop here on War and Pandemic. Got Jack Maxey, Raheem Kassam. We're talking about debate number one. Remember, the Democratic left CNN and Joe Scarborough wanted to be the debate number only. Back in a moment.
Yeah. Thank you, Steve. Hashtag War Room Pandemic returns in just a moment.
I'm Nick Bolton, and these days...
Hey there.
Hey there. It seems everybody has a pair of tactical sunglasses.
Good morning.
Morning. But what if you already wear glasses? Then you need these Up Tac Glasses. These new glasses fit right over your existing eyewear to give you all the benefits of our Tac glasses while you comfortably wear your regular glasses. Plus, like all Tac glasses, Up Tac Glasses feature Bell & Howell light filtering technology that makes invisible objects suddenly become visible. There's just nothing like them on the market today. Here you go, buddy.
Thanks, Nick.
Act now to get your Up Tac Glasses for just $19.99, and we'll even ship them to you free. But wait, order today and you can get a second pair. Just pay a separate fee. Here's how to order.
Call 1-800-284-4127 or go to flipupglasses.com. That's 1-800-284-4127 or order online at flipupglasses.com.
Frustrated with heavy rubber hoses that always get tangled and easily kink? Introducing the Bionic Flex Pro hose, the super strong, super tough hose that's ultra light as well. Run over an ordinary hose and it'll easily burst, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose stays intact no matter what runs over it, because its reinforced drag-resistant commercial-grade outer polyester weave makes it tougher and stronger than ever. And its solid brass fittings are crush-proof too. Ordinary hoses kink easily and stop working, but the Bionic Flex Pro hose never kinks. It just keeps flowing strong. And while regular hoses easily get tangled, the Bionic Flex Pro hose is tangle-proof. You can get the 25-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose for just $19.95 with free shipping. But wait, order today and we'll upgrade your order to a 50-foot Bionic Flex Pro hose. Just pay a separate fee, and shipping is still free. Go now.
Call 1-800-313-8062.
Windshields are impossible to clean, and a dirty windshield can be downright dangerous. Introducing the Hurricane Windshield Wizard, the one tool that reaches and cleans for you. It uses the power of microfiber with a pivoting head to make cleaning windshields quick and easy. The specially designed ergonomic handle fills with tap water and dispenses at the touch of a button, so you can clean in seconds without straining. And it folds away for space-saving storage. Order now and get the Hurricane Windshield Wizard with free extra bonnet for just $19.99. But order now and you can double the offer. Plus, you can also get the Battle Visor, the visor that blocks the harsh glaring sun and keeps you safe on the road. Just pay a separate fee, and we'll ship everything to you for free. That means you can get all this and free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-474-7530 or visit getwindshieldwizard.com. So call 1-800-474-7530 now.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
We just got the support of 250 military leaders and generals, total support. Law enforcement, almost every law enforcement group in the United States. I have Florida, I have Texas, I have Ohio, I have Portland. The sheriff just came out today and he said, I support President Trump. I don't think you have any law enforcement. You can't even say the word law enforcement, because if you say those words, you're going to lose all of your radical left supporters. And why aren't you saying those words, Joe? Why don't you say the words law enforcement? Because you know what? If they called us in Portland, we would put out that fire in a half an hour, but they won't do it because they're run by radical left Democrats. If you look at Chicago, if you look at any place you want to look, Seattle, they heard we were coming in the following day, and they put up their hands, and we got back Seattle. Minneapolis, we got it back, Joe, because we believe in law and order, but you don't. The top 10 cities and just about the top 40 cities are run by Democrats and in many cases radical left. And they've got you wrapped around their finger, Joe, to a point where you don't want to say anything about law and order. And I'll tell you what, the people of this country want and demand law and order, and you're afraid to even say.
It was one of my favorite moments from last night. Welcome back to the War Room. Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon, Raheem Kassam, and joining us down the line, the founder and editor of just a fantastic resource, drudge killing website, one of the new drudges out there. It's called citizenfreepress.com. We've mentioned it before on the show, but if you're not familiar, I want you to head on over and take a peruse down the site. There is no harder working man in media right now than Kane. Kane, welcome to the program.
Glad to be here. Glad to be with you guys.
Hey, we're so grateful for you taking the time this morning. I say there's no harder working man in media right now because you're often telling me how many hours you're having to sit at the desk and go through all the different news stories. You look at things across all the filters, and Citizen Free Press really has become a real resource for me. I couldn't go a day without it now, quite frankly, because you guys have all the stories up so much faster than anyone else, and cutting the signal through the noise here. So speaking of which, let's cut right to the chase on the debate last night. You obviously have seen a lot of the response. You've got a lot of the reaction up there. I'm sure you watched as much as you could take, like the rest of us yesterday. So give us your first impressions, Kane. What happened last night?
Well, thanks for the kind words. And as far as the hardest working man in media, at least in the last 24 hours, you're probably right. To give people an idea, I was putting finishing touches on the site until about 4:30 this morning. Been awake at 9 a.m. for this show. So last night, and reader response. Look, I'm not as bothered by it as everyone else. I thought it was fine. I expected this from Trump. I thought the first 30 minutes were pretty fantastic, in fact, sort of like your impression, Raheem. Yeah, at the end, might have gotten a little bit aggressive, a little bit off the rails. But people are going to forget about it. It's really not going to be an issue in 2 days. If you remember 2012, when Obama just completely failed in the first debate with Romney, even the left-wing media was admitting that Romney had destroyed him, and that was all that had disappeared within 48 hours. And Obama did much better in the second debate. And I think the same thing is going to happen for Trump. Allow the mainstream media to have their mini victory lap this morning. But again, I really don't think it matters. I don't think Trump lost any of his base. Maybe he didn't pick up some of the independents that we hoped he would pick up from focus group stuff and Frank Luntz and other idiots. But so what's the reader take? I'll give you an idea. Last night, when someone would post something negative about Trump's being a little bit too aggressive, they were generally downvoted about 10-1. So again, my side is heavy base. There's no doubt about it. So these are the real Trump supporters. But look, nothing. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't everything we all would hope for. But I really don't think it matters. And to be honest, I would rather Trump err on the side of being too much of a street fighter than too low key or too laid back. So I think he succeeded there, right? Maybe he was too strong. He'll dial it back, but I'm not worried about the next 3 weeks.
That's interesting, Kane, and I was thinking something similar this morning to myself as well, as how much of a news cycle is this debate and how much of a victory lap are they going to take, and what exactly are they going to take a victory lap over? And if you look at the left media this morning, and I mean the real left media, right? You look at The Nation, you look at Mother Jones, you look at the Young Turks, you look at Democracy Now!, you look at the Daily Kos, you look at the Raw Story. Okay, look at the way that these guys are framing their reactions. It isn't that Joe Biden won. None of them are claiming that Joe Biden won. None of them have a big Biden face up on their front page with the term victory over the top of it. So what's the victory lap for them? The victory lap for them is that somehow Chris Wallace was one of them for last night. And now Chris Wallace may be one of them for all times. He may be a member of the Lincoln Project. I don't know what Chris Wallace is and what was inspiring Chris Wallace last night, apart from his Christmas party invitations that he's worried he might not get if he doesn't bow to the Washington consensus. But he did. So moving on from that, where does next steps that the president should be taking? Because right now, in real time, he's tweeting, Biden refused to use the term law and order. There go the suburbs. So where does President Trump go in your mind?
Well, I think that's probably the right direction. He's got to emphasize things that were strong from his side, and I put that clip up within an hour of the debate last night. I don't remember the headline, but it's something like Trump asked, are any law enforcement groups supporting you? Dead silence. I thought that was Trump's strongest moment. So yeah, he should emphasize the strong things, but then move on from the debate completely. And you're right about the far left in the nation and TPM and those types of sites. They weren't declaring a Biden victory. They were celebrating the fact that Trump didn't dominate. So they got an extra 2 weeks where Biden wasn't kicked to the curb, and Trump will learn from this. The one thing we know is the guy learns. I mean, that's his natural instinct. He's going to adapt. He'll probably be just as aggressive, but just do less interrupting. And quickly, I think that was the sweet spot last night, right? You have to give Biden enough rope to hang himself. You've got to give him the ability to make a mistake and sort of lose his train of thought. And that wasn't going to happen with Chris Wallace interrupting and Trump interrupting. It didn't really give Biden enough of an opportunity to screw up. So I think that's one of the changes Trump will make. But in terms of going forward, like you said, this is going to be gone in 24 hours, and Trump is really good at changing the news cycle. So we'll see what he does. But I'm really not that worried about it. I wasn't that upset when it ended last night. I thought it was, it was a little bit chaotic, but I wasn't really bothered by Trump's performance. I understand that people are hand-wringing about how Trump failed to perhaps bring in a huge number of independents, but you know what? He's got 2 more opportunities, and I think that, he'll take advantage and succeed at both those debates. So we'll see.
And you got this story up on your site, up on citizenfreepress.com right now. It's one of the lead stories up there. It says Matt Drudge has not sold, and this is a theme that keeps coming back up, and we talk about this a lot on our show as well. The book, The Drudge Revolution, is an absolute must-read if you want to understand the mind of Matt Drudge, if you want to understand that Matt Drudge has not sold the site. And that's what the New York Post has got a report on from yesterday. You've linked it up on citizenfreepress.com, and you're one of the new Drudge Killer sites. You're doing, I think, 60 million views a month right now. It's absolutely on fire. Post, I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Matt Drudge rumored to be seeking investors for the Drudge Report. Kane, what's going on?
It's a very misleading headline. I actually saw that story because Drudge Revolution author Matthew Leshek sent it to me last night by Twitter, and I was surprised by the headline. The rumor about Paul Singer was out there a couple of weeks ago, and it really doesn't make any sense. And privately, Matthew told me that he was able to verify that rumor wasn't true. But you and I have discussed on your National Pulse show, there's evidence out there that Matt is still running the site. And, we've discussed it a couple of times, but the biggest proof, if people want to see, is that you can look today. Matt is still linking to his favorites. These are the people that he's been linking to for 15 years. But it's an interesting thing. On your show last week, Harlan Hill had a very good point where he said this is personal. It looks like Drudge has turned against Trump personally. And yesterday there was a headline on the Drudge Report that used the word hate, and it was talking about people hating President Trump. So it was another piece of evidence showing me that Matt has, this is a personal thing, and that he no longer likes Trump's personality, and that's probably what this is about more than anything else. But if you want to have one little pivot on this, how much is Drudge Report worth? Let's say Paul Singer really was interested in buying. Is Drudge Report still a billion-dollar business? He's doing 500 million page views a month now, down from 1 billion. So what would you say if you had several billion in your pocket there, Raheem? How much would you offer for Drudge Report?
Well, it's a good question, and it's not even necessarily what the numbers currently are, but it's the trajectory that one looks at on this thing, and the trajectory is not good for the Drudge Report. So, you know, I think the answer to your question is I would pay very little for a declining news website. It is interesting what's going on over there. It is interesting. I mean, the book that you first put me onto, the Drudge Revolution, is a fascinating read, and I commend it to all people. Kane, just before we let you go, I want to make sure that everybody knows the site, knows where they should be going and bookmarking. Just give yourself a shout out.
All right, thanks. And hey, I want to give a shout out to Jack, who is awesome every morning. I watch your guys' show, so you do a fantastic job, Jack. And Stephen K. Bannon, hello, sir. Nice to be in the same virtual room as you. As far as my website, it is citizenfreepress.com. You can find updates 18 hours a day from 10 a.m. until 4 a.m. Check in. You'll find me working feverishly. And I wish you guys, I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of the show, and I look forward to joining you again sometime in the future.
All right, that's Kane from citizenfreepress.com. Thanks once again to Kane. Yeah, it's interesting what he says. I mean, the gentlemen, the expedited nature of moving on from this, I think, is what was the main takeaway from that. It's not particularly even a whole news cycle. Steve, Jack?
I kind of look at this first debate as this is Trump's first sparring match here with Biden, right? So he's figured out how it's going to play out. Remember, he did the same thing in 2016. That first debate, he came out super aggressive. People thought he'd overdone it. And then he pulled back, and he started slaying Hillary Clinton. So I think we're going to see the same thing this time around. I believe that Trump is not going to be stopped. I do think he is like a mastiff on a chain. And I think we can take a lot of courage from the fact that this guy never backs down. If there's anything that I see about Donald Trump, it is this amazing strength that he has. I could not do the days that he puts in under any circumstance. Here's this guy's over 70 years old, and he keeps kicking butt every single day. You want an example of an American man? That's the one right there, Raheem.
All right, Steve, we're going to jump to a quick break now. Steve, I want to get your thoughts on what Kane was talking about there and what Jack's just said as well. We've got a lot to cover here on this show. Also, the pandemic, the polling, and more. We've got a load more clips to play as well, since we had a few technical issues in the first segment. We're going to play catch-up in the next. Raheem Kassam, Stephen K. Bannon, Jack Maxey return with War Room Pandemic in just a moment.
Brett Favre, legendary quarterback. Jerry Rice, legendary wide receiver.
You ready for your weekly meeting?
Yeah, we're ready.
Let's do this. Let's stack the deck.
When legends play, they wear Copperfit Advanced Back Pro. Copperfit's best-selling compression back support just got better with new double-band adjustable supports for customizable compression when you need it most.
Since I put this on, I feel so much better. The core is the most important thing. To know that I'm stabilized here. Whatever I'm doing, I can give it 100%.
4 built-in stabilizing supports designed to improve posture and help reduce lower back stress and strain.
You have back pain, and it's affecting your everyday life. You do something.
If you can find something to help you get back out and be active, like Copperfit, go for it.
Absolutely.
Do not give up.
A high-performance compression fabric infused with the powerful properties of copper, 360-degree flexible mobility, and lightweight, durable construction.
Nothing more painful than having back pains. If you're aching, if you feel like you can't work out anymore, you can. And that's with Copperfit.
Yeah. It's for all of us who still want to be active, still want to compete.
Way to go. That's what I'm talking about. Man, this really does feel good. It feels to me like the fountain of youth.
Copperfit's best-selling back support just got bigger, badder, and better. Or call 1-800-944-5851. Or on the web at advancedbackpro.com. Get yours now for only $19.99.
This does feel good.
That's what I've been saying.
You think it was fair?
It was fun.
Play for the love of the game.
Copperfit, live limitless.
Windshields are impossible to clean, and a dirty windshield can be downright dangerous. Introducing the Hurricane Windshield Wizard, the one tool that reaches and cleans for you. It uses the power of microfiber with a pivoting head to make cleaning windshields quick and easy. The specially designed ergonomic handle fills with tap water and dispenses at the touch of a button, so you can clean in seconds without straining. And it folds away for space-saving storage. Order now and get the Hurricane Windshield Wizard with free extra bonnet for just $19.99. But order now and you can double the offer. Plus, you can also get the Battle Visor, the visor that blocks the harsh glaring sun and keeps you safe on the road. Just pay a separate fee, and we'll ship everything to you for free. That means you can get all this and free shipping. Order now.
Call 1-800-474-7530 or visit GetWindshieldWizard.com. So call 1-800-474-7530 now.
War Room Pandemic with Stephen K. Bannon.
The epidemic is a demon, and we cannot let this demon hide.
War Room Pandemic. Here's your host, Stephen K. Bannon.
Their strategy now is very clear, which is to try to win in enough battleground states the election day vote. And that, I think, is what's going on here. It's like Donald Trump is trying to say, how do I get people, a group of people who are largely not immune from concern about coronavirus. You know, we already know there's a disparity between Republicans and Democrats in terms of who's willing to put health concerns aside and show up on election day, stand in a long line, go and vote in person. We know there's this giant disparity. Democrats are going to vote early and by mail. Republicans are going to show up on election day. Trump is now speaking to, those Republican-leaning suburban women act more like Democrats in this context, right? Trump is focused explicitly on how do I win the game day vote? How do I get my core base supporters to come out on election day so that on the game day vote, I can put a flag in the ground and say, I won Pennsylvania on election day in-person voting. And then after election day, all of those other votes, those tens of millions of votes that come in by mail, that have come in early, that many of which are not going to be counted until after election day, then engage in a knife fight in the counting rooms, in the validation certification process, in the courts, in the Electoral College, in the House of Representatives, ultimately. Again, Meacham and Jim Vandehei are talking about this the right way now. The Trump campaign thinks the fight for the presidency is not. We all say, hey, election day is early. People are voting early right now. They're saying we don't care about that. We're going to contend that all of that was illegitimate. And for us, election day starts on election day and continues until January 20th. That's where the fight is going to happen. And that's why Trump is now starting to talk about he's trying to get, what's the Proud Boys thing about? It's about their increasing conviction that there is going to be civil unrest in the country I'm talking about their conviction. This is not a left-wing partisan conspiracy theory. Within Trump's inner circle, within Trump's councils of power, within the influential people on the outside like Steve Bannon, they now talk about the war starts the day after Election Day. The fight is between November 4th and January 20th. And some of that fight is going to be, as I said, in the counting rooms, in the courts, in the House of Representatives, and potentially in the streets. And I think they are getting ready for that fight. And they are, in some respects, realizing it's the only path to the presidency for him. And it's going to be really ugly.
Well, the question in the live chat, Steve, was who is this Chrome Dome? What were we watching there?
John Heilman from, we want to have a new announcement. John Heilman, the new co-host of War Room Pandemic. John Heilman is the host of Showtime's The Circus. He's a very prominent commentator on politics. He's a contributor to Morning Joe. And if you want to know what the Democratic Party and the left is thinking, John Heilman's your guy. But he must be watching the War Room Pandemic, Raheem. I think he cribbed your notes from the Transition Integrity Project, and he's laying out right there the case for the fight to come.
Yeah, I think that's right, and unsurprising that they've clocked onto this thing. You've seen the full scale panic that now is occurring at Media Matters. after I did my own Trump-esque beatdown on Justin Horowitz 2 days ago. Not only did he block me, Steve, but he also locked his entire account and has been mass deleting tweets in the meantime.
Justin's got to understand, if you're coming up to the bigs for your cup of coffee, you can't take down your Twitter feed because Raheem Kassam's picking on you, right? That means you've actually arrived. So, Justin, get the Twitter feed back up and start hammering us, brother. I want to say something too quickly about, and I'd like to hear, I haven't seen the live chat or the hashtag War and Pandemic, is my strong belief last night is that the Democrats panicked. They know they have a big vulnerability. This vulnerability is Joe Biden. He's not going to get better over time. And I think President Trump ought to double and triple down here on the pressure, on the intensity. I would love to see more populism. I would love to see more economic nationalism. I would love to see my beloved wall. All of our, we all love the wall. I'd love to see more about immigration, and particularly immigration that plays to the Hispanic community. Remember, they're the ones that want to limit illegal immigration because they're the ones that are hurt economically by it. You saw the Telemundo poll. Hispanic males, African-American males are looking for leadership. And President Trump last night's offering leadership. One last thing before I toss it back to you guys. Kane and Citizens Free Press. If you guys go to Citizens Free Press, you can hang out all day. And on the number, I've never seen the number of curated articles on there. You've got so many great sites up right now that are the antithesis of Drudge, right? And so you've got Citizens Free Press, you got Wetfinger, you got Bongino Report, you got Revolver. You've also got these reflective, new, cutting-edge investigative like National Pulse. You got the Real America's Voice that's putting up great shows all the time. So you've got people have alternatives now, and what you have to do is support those alternatives and get engaged. And one thing you do, I think, when you go on the sites, get in the comment section. Get in the comment section and let people know what you think. This is a movement. Last night, and what John Hallman's talking about is game day. You've got to get people registered to vote. You got to get people out to vote. You got to get, you've got to support this. So, Jack, Raheem, back to you guys for comments, observations, and to take us out. We got a whole nother hour. I thought last night was a big night. I want 2 more like that. I want 2 more beatdowns on that, because people are going to understand Joe Biden's not prepared to be the leader of the free world.
Steve, one thing that came out this morning on TV, we had Nancy Pelosi on Morning Joe, and to your point that you've been saying for several days now, that the Democrats have terrified their base concerning the virus, and therefore they're, in their basements, unwilling to go to the polls. Well, Nancy was adamant today that, that it's safe, you can go and you can vote, and social distance, and everybody must be there. So they're completely changing their narrative. They know that game day is November 3rd.
Guys, that's a huge thing. We got to pull that. We got to get that up next hour. I'm telling you, the tells are so obvious they panicked, okay? We outed them. They traumatized their base on the pandemic. We went about it in a logical fashion. That's why Trump supporters want to go vote on game day. And you just heard John Heilman on Morning Joe. They're in freak-out mode. This is what the $100 million cash infusion from Bloomberg is. You know what napalm smells like in the morning? Victory. Back to you guys.
Good morning. Sunday morning. These are the tells, the Nancy Pelosi
Biden
tells.
don't surf.
We'll be back with more Jack Maxey, Stephen K. Bannon, Raheem Kassam, War and Pandemic. You'd never think that we'd have this much energy after last night and everything, but I think this is all from you guys, and we're very grateful. Stick around.
Tired of struggling with regular mirrors that don't adjust so you can't get close enough? Need both hands but you don't have a stand? Can't move in the right direction to see your own reflection? You need Flexible Mirror, the bendable, light-up magnification mirror that comes to you. Watch. Just stick it on and turn the base. The super suction locking mechanism means you can put it on any smooth surfaced place, horizontal or vertical. Lock it onto any mirror, table, or desk. Use it in the shower, even on a window. The secret is Flexible Mirror's super strong articulating arm that's attached with an ingenious ball and socket so it can swivel and rotate for the perfect angle. And look how strong it holds. The mirror is precision crafted with 10 times times magnification and crystal clear optics. And with a soft glow LED ring, you'll get picture-perfect lighting to highlight every detail. Flexible mirror makes shaving, applying makeup, hairstyling, grooming, and accessorizing easier than ever before. Plus, men, listen up. The 10 times magnification makes it perfect for giving your beard a detailed trim. Whatever you need to do, Flexible Mirror comes to you. Plus, the contemporary chrome accents add a lovely modern touch to any room. Stop struggling to put in your delicate contacts and let Flexible Mirror come to you, so it's much easier to do. Similar mirrors can cost as much as $100, and they don't even come to you. But you can get Flexible Mirror for the special TV discount price of just $19.99. We guarantee you'll love the Flexible Mirror so much that it comes with our 90-day no questions asked money-back guarantee. And here's the best part. We give you free shipping on your entire order. That's right, free shipping. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-987-6183. That's 1-800-987-6183 or order online at tryflexiblemirror.com.